What is going on, my friends? Welcome to another great episode of the Arrington Gavin podcast. Okay, this is episode 88, and this is the show where we discuss trending news and thought-provoking topics from the fields of politics, sports, pop culture, and so much more. I'm very excited, guys, because I have a special guest on, which you've seen the promotions that we've been doing on social media, and I'm very excited about this a special guest is the one and only Miss Barbara Hamm Lee, who is a award-winning journalist, an icon when it comes to just media, really, especially in the Hampton Roads area. She's the host of one of the long-running successful radio shows called Another View, which you can tune in if you're in Hampton Roads. You can tune in every Thursdays at 12 p.m. To 89.5. I want to say WHRV 89.5 to Another View. And she is also the owner of Sharing Info LLC, which is a media communications, diversity, equity, inclusion, and justice consulting company. I had to make sure I remember that. Acronym. But I'm a bigger fan of hers because, as you guys know, throughout this journey of my podcast, and I also host a weekly radio show as well, I'm continuing to build my resume when it comes to media. And during that journey, I always take notes from people who has came before us that is highly accomplished when it comes to the field, and Barbara Hamm Lee is one of those individuals. I always I take notes just on the style of talk, the questions she asked. I'm a huge fan, and like I said, I'm a huge fan. I'm an avid listener of Another View. And we have a couple of good friends that we happen to share. Dr. Eric Clavell, shout out to Dr. Eric Clavell, as well as comedian Allison Moore, Virginia's comedian, as she says it. So I'm looking forward to this conversation with her. Also, guys, before I bring her on, the Arrington Gavin podcast comes to you with new episodes every Monday, Wednesday, Fridays, 10 a.m. Eastern Standard Time via podcast. So wherever you get your podcast, whether that's iHeartRadio, Spotify, Odyssey, hey, you can tune into the Arrington Gavin podcast. Also, on those same days, the video version of this podcast drops at 5 p.m. on our YouTube channel, R Smooth Club Media, the letter R and then Smooth Club Media. Let's see, Facebook at R Smooth Club Podcast, Twitter, or excuse me, X, formerly known as Twitter, our Smooth Club Media. So many versions you can watch the show, or many ways you can watch the show, and many ways you can listen to the show as well. So without further ado, I'm gonna bring on the one and only. She is the host of Another View, which is a weekly radio talk show, and it's a very successful one here in the Hampton Roads area. I think it's going on about 11 or 12 years. I have to ask her about that. But Another View is an amazing show where they discuss today's issues from an African-American perspective. And I will say, being a lifelong Hampton Roads resident, we don't have a lot of media shows that really you can get the African-American perspective. So it's needed. Her show is very needed in the community. She's also a DEIJ facilitator, award-winning journalist, as I mentioned before, TV and radio host, and the owner of Sharing Info LLC. So without further ado, y'all, let me bring on our special guest, the lady of the hour, Miss Barbara Hamm Lee. How you doing, Barbara?
Hey, I'm good, Arrington. How you doing?
I am I'm better now that I'm talking to you. I'm telling you,
that is so kind of you. Thank you for that
fanboying
introduction
right now. Oh, you're welcome. I'm fanboying right now. So I told my fam, I'm like, look, I have a big, I've been very blessed to interview some amazing and remarkable individuals, and I mean, hands down, you are at the top right now on that list. I mean,
wow.
I'm really looking forward to this. So, first, Miss Barbara, may I ask, the first question I want to bring up is the upbringing. So I know you're because I was reading your resume and I saw PG County in there. Are you originally from Maryland?
Yeah, I'm actually from Baltimore. Born and raised
Okay.
in Baltimore. Went to high school in Baltimore before I went to college in Greensboro, North Carolina. Shout out to my Bennett Bell sisters, as that is where I graduated from. But yes, I've actually lived in Hampton Roads twice. I moved here in 1993 from Philadelphia. As the assistant news director at WTKR News 3.
Yes.
And a year later, I was promoted to news director. And I was at the station until 2001. I left right after 9/11. I had
Wow.
kind of burned out a little bit, and knew, the intensity of being in the newsroom and everything that was going on. And so I took about 4 months off and actually did community service. I joined boards, volunteered, things of that nature. And then I don't know if you remember Chief Melvin High, um, but he was the
I'm
police
familiar.
chief in Norfolk
Yes,
back
yes, yes,
in
absolutely.
the early 2000s. Yeah. Well, he became police chief in Prince George's County, Maryland. And he called me and he said, okay, the Prince George's County Police and the Washington Post will not talk to each other. And I need somebody to mend media relations. So I left Hampton Roads, went back to Maryland, lived in Mitchellville, Maryland, which is in Prince George's County, and worked with the media there and the police department, because the police department had gone through some changes.
Hmm.
They had gotten slapped by the Justice Department for some of the treatment that they were given to some of their residents. And,
Mm,
he was there to clean up a lot of things. And we did clean up a lot of things. And so trying to get the media to recognize that and to, give credit where credit is due. I mean, yes, slap us when we need to be slapped, but at the same time, give us our props when we need to have our props.
absolutely, absolutely. And
So,
I asked because I have family in the Fort Washington area.
oh,
My
okay.
dad and
Yeah.
stepmom lived in Fort Washington for years. I have a sister that lived, I want to say, in Waldorf, Maryland.
Yep.
And so,
Mhm.
so yeah, when I said Prince
Oh,
George, I was
yeah.
like,
So
wait a
you're
minute,
very
PG
familiar
County.
with Prince George's. You know what?
Yeah.
As a matter of fact, when I went there, so I got there in 2003, and
Hmm.
that was when they had just started their campaign to change it from calling it PG County to calling it Prince
Prince.
George's County. And that was part of that whole movement. Also, it was the largest community of African Americans, of wealthy African Americans in
Hmm.
the country, and people were buying houses, and there was a lot of movement, and a lot of good things that were going on in the county. And so they changed the name to try to remove it from its past.
Absolutely, absolutely, and it's continuing to grow as far as
Yeah.
being a predominantly African American area. Again, my
Hmm.
my family's been there for years. I'm originally born and raised Chesapeakean, diehard Chesapeake
Yeah.
guy,
Yeah.
but and love Hampton Roads, but no, when I saw that, I'm like, okay, wait a minute, she's from Maryland, but I'm glad you're back here. I'm glad you're back to
Yes.
Hampton Roads.
Well, I came, it was funny. I was sitting on 495
Hmm.
in traffic, and I got a call from WHRO, and they said, we're looking for a communications manager. Would you think
Wow.
about coming back to Hampton Roads? And I was like, when? Because I want to get out of this traffic. Yes, I'll come back.
I'll
And
be
so I
right
came
there. I'll
back.
be right there.
Yep, I'll be right there. So I came back in 2006, and been here ever since. Yeah.
And that's
And
that's amazing because majority of your career has been in media, and I mean that spans decades. And don't
yeah.
quote me, may I ask how many years? Because you've been in media for
Oh, that's no problem. You know
mhm.
what? I graduated from Bennett in 1978 in May, and in June, I got my first job at the NBC affiliate in Baltimore,
Wow,
WBAL, and I have been in media my entire career.
that
So I've
is
been blessed.
amazing. That
Yeah,
is
I've
awesome.
been blessed.
So now,
Yeah.
has media always been a dream of yours to pursue? Has that always been like the goal once you were in, as a kid? Oh,
You
I'm
know
going to
what?
be a talk show host. I'm going to do this. Like, well, how that? Oh, I'm gonna have my own show. It's going to be called Bob, right? Or Barbara Hamlin. Has that ever been a long term dream of
Arrington,
yours to
you,
pursue?
you're not going to believe this. So my dream and pursuit, I was going to be a special education teacher, and I was going to marry a gentleman in corporate America and have my 2.5 children and a dog and a white picket fence. And that was my dream. None of that worked out. But I
Dreams
have
really do come true, guys.
exactly,
Dreams
but
really do.
I have no regrets. So
That is awesome. So when would you say you had got bit by the media bug? Because I mean, you
well,
are I mean, like I said, have a
I
great
know.
resume, multiple time awards. And might I ask, I gotta keep on giving you your flowers. A few of those awards that I thought was very, very interesting. I want to point out you received 3 XL awards given by the NABJ, which is the
Mhm.
largest organization of journalists of color. And I wanted to point that out because I want to say maybe a few years ago, maybe more than that. I remember the NABJ was hosting an event. No, I'm sorry, Hampton University was hosting an event for the NABJ, and my business was a sponsor there, and I was just in awe because I got to meet and really build friendships with people like Ashley Smith, who's a journalist out here in Hampton Roads, Aisha Scott, who's now I believe in Chicago. Yeah, she's in Chicago now. And I just met so many people from Philadelphia. This now I'm just like, and I mean just the mannerism. First of all, I'm over here saying like, did I pronounce this word right? Like I felt like if I mispronounced a word, they were gonna call me out. So I mean,
please.
Everybody was just so sharp, and I remember learning the history of the NABJ because I really wasn't too familiar with the NABJ. So I had to give you your flowers on that because that's a very
thank you.
NABJ.
You know what? As a matter of fact, Eric Claville won 1 year with us because of the Claville report that he debuted on Another View, and that was the show that won that that particular year.
Awesome.
So talk about the connections and 6 degrees of separation, no question about it. Absolutely. But no, I when I went to Bennett, I was in the special education track until I got to my junior year, and I walked into this class called Art for Elementary Ed Students. And the instructor said, I want a 15-page term paper on bulletin boards. And I went screaming from the room. I was like, I can't even draw a stick figure. Give me a break. This is not me.
Amen to that.
So I went to my advisor and we talked. And people had told me all along, with your personality and so forth, you ought to be in media. You ought to do this or that. I was in a program at Bennett called interdisciplinary studies. And it was a new program back in the 70s where you basically had the opportunity to set your own courses. And my concentration changed to mass communications and public relations. And so I landed an internship in Baltimore where we had to do what we called an externship that year because we had to leave campus, go work in our field for a semester. And so I came back home to Baltimore, stayed at home with my folks, worked at a little theater, selling tickets to have gas money to go back and forth to the TV station, and worked at the TV station full time. And that's when I got the bug. And I went into news, and I always knew I didn't want to be on air. Believe it or not, I didn't go on air until Another View. I've always been in television management. I knew I wanted to be a news director. I knew I wanted to be in charge because particularly as you learn how news works and what gets covered and so forth. And it is management that makes the decisions, even though reporters can come in and they can have their ideas and pitch their ideas and so forth. But management is the one that's going to determine whether that story, how it's told, what format it's going to take, if it ever airs or not. And I was determined to start showing people a different side of our community, of what Black folks were doing, because I knew what my upbringing was, and I knew that the media landscape was not fairly representing us in all of our facets. So I'm not denying that there are issues. There are, but at the same time, there are also a lot of people who are doing a lot of really good things. I mean, look at you. I really want to know about being 14.
Okay, a few more things.
Yes, but I mean, seriously, and if there aren't people behind the scenes, producers, executive producers, assistant news directors, operations managers, etc., if they're not there, then the voice is not represented. And if the voice is not represented, then the story will not be told. If the story is not told, then the community does not get to see the richness of what we all bring. And so it was incredibly important to me to be able to do that. And like I said, I've been blessed. I started straight out of college. As a matter of fact, if you got a minute, I can tell you a real quick story.
Take your time. We're having a conversation.
So my intern, after I interned at WBAL, I went back to Bennett, graduated. And I called them right after I graduated and I said, okay, I'm done. I've got my degree, hire me. And so they said, well, we don't have anything open right now. They said, but come in, take a writing test. And for those of you who are listening who want to be in media, I don't care what form of media it is, you must know how to write, period. End of discussion. But they said, come in, take a writing test, so we'll have it, should something open up. So I went in, took the writing test. This was well before cell phones, and we were carrying pagers back then. But when I took the writing test, by the time I got home, they had called because the production assistant walked in and quit right after my interview. And that was an entry level position into the newsroom. So that's how I got started, straight out of college. And from there, I wrote for newscast. Then I became an assistant producer and then a producer. And then, it snowballed from there, because I was always looking. My goal was to become a news director. And so I always wanted to make sure I was on track with the positions that I accepted. And I worked in Baltimore. I worked at BET for a while in DC. I worked at Channel 7 in DC. I worked in Philadelphia at KYW. And then I finally got the call one day from a gentleman named John Wooden. And he said, I'm in Norfolk, Virginia, and I'm leaving in a year. And I am looking for someone who can come in as an assistant news director and become news director when I leave. And I was like, Norfolk, Virginia. Now I'm in Philly, which was at that time the fourth largest television market in the country.
Wow.
And I'm looking at the list of stations, and Norfolk is the 40th largest television market. And so I'm thinking, okay, I said, and I was honest with him. I said, okay, how much of a pay cut am I going to have to take to come to Norfolk? Because, that the higher the market, the more money you make, right? And he said, and I'll never forget this. He said, oh, I've done my due diligence. He said, I'll pay you 10% more than what you're currently making. Wow. And I said, okay, fine. Well, the deal was, in his due diligence, he was off about 25 grand in my favor. So when I left Philly and came to Norfolk, and things like, at that time I was renting. So a 3-bedroom townhouse in Jersey at that time was, I don't know, like $1,200. And when I came to Virginia Beach, which is where I moved when I first came here back in '93, and I rented a 4-bedroom single family brick home on a quarter-acre land for $800. Okay, so so I was a happy camper.
we need those days now. We need those days now.
Those days are long gone now, right?
Never coming back. Never coming back. Man, what I love, Barbara, what you just put out for our listeners and viewers is the right step-by-step process to how you want to pursue your dream. Here on this show, I love to make it fun but also informative, for our younger listeners too, because I'm 28 and I always want to help. I want to help my actions hopefully lead by example. I'm very blessed and fortunate to be a small business owner, and I do a little bit of everything, and I'm always just moving forward. But I always tell people, like, you have to know how to do the step-by-step process, and don't try to step ahead a few steps, because then you'll get blocked, and when you get stuck, you're gonna be like, oh, what do I do? And it's very important, because I'm trying to think of a good example. So in theater, and like for actors, a lot of actors now that are successful in front of the camera, they are now adjusting to behind the scenes. And then for those that wanted to pursue acting, they said, well, look, I had to pursue first theater. I had to pursue the stage first. Once I accomplished the stage, then I went into screenwriting, or so I can write a good script. And this, so I'm loving how you're
you have to understand your industry. You have to understand the industry that you really want to be in, and mentors critical. Okay. And I don't think anybody, that's why I really encourage those who are in journalism today or want to be into journalism. My first question to them is, where did you do an internship? And who are your mentors? Because you can't navigate the system by yourself, because there's just a hierarchy, there's a way to do it. And people are willing to help you if you're willing to reach out. I talk to college students all the time. And every time I'm in a classroom, I say to them, if you are interested in an internship, we'd love to have you at Another View. If you are interested in mentors, reach out to me. If I'm not the right one, I can put you in touch with them. But here's my information. Now it's on you. And Arrington, I can tell you, out of the hundreds of students that I've spoken to since I've been in Hampton Roads, I can count on one hand the number who
Wow.
actually followed through. And
Wow.
so when you get opportunities like that, if
Mhm.
you're serious about what you want to do, then you have to take advantage of it. Some people are serious, some people aren't. That's kind of how they get weeded out, quite frankly.
And
Because those
isn't
who
that?
are
Oh, I'm
into
sorry.
it, no. I'm just saying those that are into it, they will follow through.
Wow. And why do you think so, Barbara? As far as for those that lack on pursuing those opportunities, is it a form of like, well, I'm just so confident. I'm like, I know is it that? Is it just, not
I think it's
being
a couple
careless in
things.
a sense?
Yeah, I think it's a couple things. I think some of it is, yeah, I'm all that,
Mhm.
and I don't need anybody. Okay, if you think so. Um, some people think they want to go into journalism because they want to be on TV or
Mm,
they want to be on the radio. That's not the reason to become a journalist. Okay, if you want to do um, entertainment,
mm.
then follow entertainment. Being a news reporter is not going to get you into TMZ. All right. be be focused on where you want to go. There's nothing wrong with any of it.
Mhm.
Everything has its place. But don't shortcut and don't, say, I just want to do this because I want to be famous. Because I've had students tell me that. I
Wow.
want to be in news because I want to be famous. Mm, mm-mm. Number
Wow.
one, you're not being famous and you real mad when you got to be up at 3 o'clock in the morning because you're on the morning shift and there's a hurricane.
Mm, mm,
And
mm.
as a news director, I don't want to hear it.
And you had said, especially being a news director, I can't imagine, especially now. I mean, in 2024, could you imagine the position of being a news director in this day? Like what? Like you had
No,
mentioned you were the news
no,
director
I'm
during
too
nine
old.
11.
I'm too old. I'm way too old.
Because it's
No,
really
you know
tough. It
what?
is really tough.
Honestly, I news is a business for young people because it is stress. It's mainly because of the stress of
Mm,
it. I mean, if you are a true serious journalist and you are out there grinding every day, you're expected to turn. Not only when I was coming through, we expected our reporters to do one or two stories, or one story and a different version of it for the various newscasts. Okay, that
got you.
would be
Got
one
you.
thing. The journalists today, not only do they have to report, find the story, report it,
Hmm.
now they have to shoot it, edit it, they have to write for the website,
It's a
they
lot.
have to
That's a
do
lot.
social media. It's a lot. It is a lot. And so
Wow.
it takes a very special breed to to want to do that. I was very lucky because when I started in Baltimore, um, that was the 20th largest market and it was a union market. So
Mm,
unlike here, where people who start here in Hampton Roads, they can sit down and they can edit their own stories and they can, do things. When I was in Baltimore, if you weren't a part of the union, you couldn't do that. And plus, when we, as a manager, we would have to do special training for whenever the unions would decide to go on strike. And
hmm.
so we used to call it scab school, and because we would be crossing the picket line, whatever. But anyway, I went into training for the photographers and editors. They went on strike, and so they had to train some managers to fill in.
Hmm.
Should the strike continue, and I was so bad at it. They said, "I tell you what, wait until the reporters go on strike, and you do that part."
I know that's right. They said, "Now look here, Barbara. A for effort, but
Exactly. A
we gonna
forever,
keep
but
you where you."
yeah.
But you know what? I do. I'm like that with my business. I mentioned it kind of in the beginning of the earlier in the show. Uh, a dream. I'm building up somewhat trying to build up a resume in media. So my
Mhm.
when I was uh visiting different schools, I wanted to pursue broadcasting. At least, well, radio has always been my dream. That's real.
Mhm.
I love
Mhm.
having conversations with people, and that's really where my love of radio, because I don't really listen to music that much. I listen to talk
You
radio. I
listen to
listen.
talk, yeah.
I'm
You're
still I will
rare.
listen to AM. I listen to AM. I listen to Sirius XM.
I love
I
it.
love
Yeah.
talk show, and I love music, but
Mhm.
I feel like I learned so much through a conversation.
I'm
And
the
I
same
consider
way.
myself a social butterfly. I'm friends with everybody, so I'm like I love conversation. So
Yeah.
my goal was to pursue mass communications, but I was fortunate. I went to Chowan University, a small school out in Murfreesboro,
Mhm.
and they never had a communications program. So I ended up saying, okay, what's my second love? Okay, health and wellness. So I pursued health and wellness, and I said, well, look, I'll become a athletic trainer. But then I got bit by the entrepreneurship bug. I started a business while I was a sophomore, but I made sure I finished school, and then I did my business. But I'm like, well, if I ever have the opportunity to kind of relive that dream, I want to do so. And then COVID hits.
Yeah.
I come across podcasting. I started a podcast with a few friends of mine, and the whole message was going to be, it was called Our Smooth Club Podcast, a show where everyday men discuss everyday topics. And it was myself. I was probably the youngest, and it was men of color. um
Mhm.
They were all different age groups. I think the oldest was 64, the youngest was around, like, I think 25, 24,
Oh, that's
25.
cool.
And we had different backgrounds. One was in culinary, another one was in fashion, another one was in
Mhm.
finance. We just spoke on a topic. And that was kind of like my way of saying, okay, now I want to continue to build up and pursue. So that's kind of where
Mhm.
my career start. But again, I've always admired your work, and
Well, the thing is, too, the difference is also, we were taught, the all the old folk, as they say, but seriously, when we were picking careers and so forth, we were taught that you put your all in all into that career,
mm,
and you climb the ladder in that career. Your generation is, you know what? I'm going to do this now. I'm going to do this next. I'm going to do this next, which I think is refreshing. I think it's wonderful because it allows you to really um,
be
capitalize on
versatile.
all of the things that you're interested in. Absolutely,
Yeah,
absolutely. So
and I
that's a difference. Yeah.
yes,
But
and
whatever it
throughout that
is,
whole
be
process.
excellent. Yeah, be
Oh,
excellent,
oh,
and no
absolutely.
matter which direction you go in, that's my thing.
Absolutely. And it really, throughout that, I'm like, okay, look, I my business is very, small business. We might have maybe 6 to 8 people max on the staff, but I still want to learn how to do everyone's
Sure.
position. I'm like, okay, wait, how do you do graphics? I want to learn a little bit. I mean, God forbid, you might have a rotator cuff surgery. You can't type. Let me do something. I think of
Yep.
stupid stuff like that. Bro. I'm like, what if you do this? So let me do it. So I'm always continue to learn little bits and pieces. And with the podcast, we hired a a production team to do all that stuff. I didn't know
Mhm.
any of that stuff, but now I'm slowly but surely trying to learn behind the scenes, because,
Yeah.
like you had mentioned, you got to be a good writer. A lot of people are.
Yeah.
It's a digital space, which actually kind of throws me into a question, one of our questions,
Mhm.
which brings on this topic, the social media takeover. So you with media now, and a lot of young people not only having to do this and do that, but they have to post it on, be experts in digital, when it
Right.
comes to
Right.
streaming and all that stuff.
Right.
um
Mhm.
when it comes to the growth of streaming service and social media has been said to be the new news platforms, and they lean away from either linear and cable, and even sometimes radio. I'm different. I
Mhm.
still tune into my radio, especially on a local level. But what what is your take on just the shift happening, being that it's a digital space that we're living in, and for people that look at social media as the news rather than looking at I will say, the true journalists, in a sense? What's your take on that?
What makes me nervous is that there's so much misinformation on social media, and people, we are in such a society now where we just want, give it to me quick, I'm not going to think about it. I'm not going to analyze it. I'm going to take what you say face value. I just keep me informed. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
So news organizations are trying to adapt to that to a certain degree,
Mm-hmm.
but really informed people, people that we really want to be leaders in our communities
Mm-hmm.
and to really focus on direction that we need to go and problem solving and so forth, can utilize social media, yes, but
Mm-hmm.
also they got to supplement it with other things because
Mm-hmm.
you only. I look at it like this, and I used to when in television used to be the digital, if you will, at
Yes.
one point in time, right?
Mm-hmm.
And I would tell people all the time, TV news is like watching the headlines. We're going to give you the who, what, when, where, how, okay? Um, but if you want in depth, you got to go to a newspaper or to a
Mm-hmm.
magazine where they have more space to be able to give you the backstory and to give you
Mm-hmm.
context, and so forth. So now I look at social media as the headline, okay, if you will.
Mm-hmm.
And you need to look at television and still print, even though print is all digital
I
at
know,
this
and
point. But
it's so hard. Yeah.
it it's difficult, but you know what? You still got to read it. I mean, even if you just get the newsletter, I get everybody. So I have the New York Times, the Washington Post, obviously the pilot.
Mm-hmm.
Anyway, that was an editorial. That was an editorial comment. But anyway, the Smithfield Times,
Mm-hmm.
the Williamsburg paper. I mean, I get a bunch of different things, and
Mm-hmm.
do I have time to read them all every day? No, but I skim through and I at least
Mm-hmm.
look at the headlines and see what's everybody talking about,
Yes.
or if something grabs my attention. And obviously, I'm also looking for ideas to say, okay, if I'm seeing this show up in three um, different digital spaces, people
Mm-hmm.
must be talking about it. Somebody's concerned about it now. Is it affecting it for another view? Is it affecting the African American community
Mm-hmm.
particularly? And if it is, okay, now we need to look at that a little closer, and we need to figure out what are people talking about and what's going on, there. So, I mean, our show is very targeted, and we don't
Mm-hmm.
make any bones about it, as you know.
I love it. I love it. I love it. I love it. I love it.
The thing, Lisa and I laugh all the time because we always get the calls when our listeners call in, because our audience is probably about 95% white.
Wow. Which is great though. Which is great because it's all
Yeah.
about having that knowledge. I mean,
They,
people have to
they are,
understand. I mean, it's
that's
not
what
just
they
for African
say.
Americans. It's for all people, which
Exactly.
is very interesting. That's
Exactly. Exactly. And they say, all the time, oh my gosh, I get a chance to listen to a conversation I probably would not hear, or I get a chance to have a different perspective, on a topic. Which is what when we started out, Another View started with on television. I don't know if you knew that.
yes, yes.
We
Well,
actually,
I
yeah,
so
okay.
I tune in. I watch past episodes on YouTube. Again,
Yeah.
I make
I
sure I
know,
do.
I
No,
can't
I'm
believe
serious. I'm
it.
a fan now. I'm a fan. The original round table. I look.
Mhm.
I'm gonna try and have. I want to try and have Bill Thomas and Will. I want to try and interview those guys too. Like I'm a fan. I'm a fan.
Oh gosh. So, well, yeah, we started on TV, and then I can't, honest to goodness, I can't remember the governor who was governor at the time. But anyway, the state wound up taking away funding for public media,
Mm,
and so the way that WHRO adjusted its budget was to stop doing TV, and TV shows,
wow.
local TV shows, and Kathy Lewis at the time
Yes.
had decided she was on Monday through Friday. She would Hearsay was the
Hearsay.
name of her
Yes. Yes.
show.
Yes. Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. Yes.
And she at the same time had come in and she said, well, I want to go to 4 days a week. And all of it kind of came together. And so I said, well, why can't we move Another View to the radio? And they were like,
Mm,
oh, no, 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 no. Nobody wants it. Not NPR listeners. They don't want to hear about, African American perspective. We know that people watch TV. We have more people of color watching our TV show, Channel
mm,
15, than we do listening to radio, blah, blah, blah. So I said, look, I'm already on staff. You could pay for a syndicated show, or you could just let us try it out. What do you have to lose? And if it
Wow.
absolutely tanks, then no harm, no foul. That was
Wow.
13 years ago.
Wow. Wow. So, okay, so was it 2 years on TV and then
2
the
years on
rest was
TV,
on radio?
on radio.
Whoa. Okay, so
Yep,
that's awesome.
yep,
That is awesome. But
yep.
again, it's so important though to have, and this will go on in another topic that I have, just black media, because it's
Mhm.
extremely important on having that representation and really helping to keep changing the narrative. That's always been my mission in life, is to change the narrative. And they always like, Arrington, what do you mean by change the narrative? I never want to give someone the automatic assumption when they see myself. I have tattoos. I'm an African American male. Oh well,
Exactly.
I remember
Yeah,
in college.
they've already put you in a
They
box,
have. I used to
and the
get,
box is not where you are. I mean,
and
seriously.
it used to always upset me, Barbara, because
Hmm.
in school they
Hmm.
always, the first thing professor would ask, okay, what sport do you play? And
Yep.
I'm like, I played sports in high school. I'm just here to get a degree. And I for a second I'm like, well, maybe it's because I was in shape. Maybe they probably saw the bill. But no, wait a minute. Once every professor, I start getting a little offended. So it's just all about
Hmm.
change the narrative. But that's so awesome to hear that story about Another View. So
Yeah.
do you miss TV though? Did you miss having having the TV show, or like which
Well,
one?
first of all, so we started Another View when Bert Schmidt, who's the president and CEO of
Mm-hmm.
HRO, he came from New York, and he came to me when he started a year after I did.
Mm-hmm.
So he started in 2007, and he came to me and he said, we don't have anything on our air of particular interest to the Black community, and Hampton Roads, I guess at that time, was almost 50-50.
Mm-hmm.
And so he said, go create something. And so I was like, okay, cool. Well, that's my thing. I'm a producer. And so we invited 200, no, I'm sorry, we invited 100 people from all over Hampton Roads, from Williamsburg to the
Mm-hmm.
Eastern Shore to Northeastern North Carolina to Hampton Roads itself. And we got 60 people who showed up.
Wow.
We asked them for 2 hours for a 2 hour working lunch, and we put the proposal before them. We said, if you could have a show that appealed to the African American community, what would you want it to be? And we got
Mm-hmm.
idea everything from cooking shows to the Great American Race for Black people to I mean, it was just this whole thing. And then we said, okay, here's the reality. Here's how much money we got. And they said, okay, you can do a talk show, but the only thing that we ask is that every week you say something positive about what's happening in the Black community.
Mm.
And we have not broken that promise. And so Lisa Godley, our producer, goes out. Now she's been working on a national documentary. So for the past year, we actually had to put this on hold. But we called these stories our selected shorts, and where she would literally go out into the community, find programs, find things that people were doing in the Black community, and do a story on it. And we would bring it to, and include it in Another View. So now Miss Thang is getting ready to air her national documentary. Very first time a national documentary has come out of WHRO
Wow.
TV, and
Wow.
Lisa Godley is the executive producer of it, and it is fabulous. So I can't wait for you guys to see it, and it's coming out in April. Yeah.
That
And it's
is
all about
awesome.
the Eastern Shore and how they're dealing with sea level rise and climate change. So
Wow. Wow.
yeah, so
That's what I'm
yeah.
talking about. Learn and see,
Hmm.
people will never hear about this if we won't have, again, voices like you, people like Lisa Golly coming out of the Hampton
Hmm.
Roads area, because I feel as though people will check out the headline news and not
Yeah.
realize, okay, we don't only just have professional athletes that come out of here, musicians that
Hmm.
come out of here, but we have amazing voices in
Yeah.
media as well. And I
We
mean,
actually have a fan club in North Carolina, and
is
and
wait, is it which
we
part of
get
Carolina?
it's in the Charlotte in the
Oh, that's
Durham area, and
awesome.
also in the Charlotte area. Yeah.
That is
And people,
awesome.
they listen the same way you do. They listen to the podcast, because I know, what, it's really hard, especially for us to be to be able to sit in front of a radio at 12 o'clock on a Thursday. Come on, man.
But you know what? That's a prime.
Folks are
That's a
working.
prime time in radio because on Sun. So, my radio show is at 12 on Sundays. Matter of fact, right
Yeah.
before the Clavell Report,
Right.
and I'm like, okay, that's a prime time. But I think it's still. I would love to always tune in more live just to get that anticipation because, of course, on
Yeah.
podcasts I get to see the title, read a little bit, and then boom, tune into it. But
Yeah.
what has been one of your like most memorable conversations on Another View? Because in the 13-year history of it, like what has been
Wow.
your like, or at least if you have a few, if you can think of.
Well, we just did we took the show to Edenton, North Carolina, a year ago. That was the first time we'd ever taken the show outside of Virginia.
Wow.
And in Edenton, they're still fighting to have the Confederate statue removed from in front of City Hall in the square, right by the water. It's a beautiful little town in North Carolina. And we took the show there. We actually had to hire security.
Wow.
Because people were a little upset that we were
Wow.
coming into their town to talk about what was happening.
Mm-hmm.
But we did a follow-up this year because it's a year later. The statue is still there, and it's all kinds of legal ways that they're slowing down the process. But that one stands out. But the one show that really stood out for me because it bothered me because I allowed a listener to trigger me. But Albion Lyons, I don't know if your listeners are familiar with her, but she's just fabulous. So we had the round table on, and this gentleman called in, and I use the term loosely, and he said, we were talking about, I don't know, some report had come out about kids and the Black community or whatever. But anyway, he says, the problem with you Black people is that all your children are illegitimate because you don't have. And I just, number one, I was a single parent and my daughter was not illegitimate. Okay. So I got triggered and I cut him off and I said, first of all, we are polite on our show. You can disagree, but you will not be disagreeable. And I just turned it over to Albion, and Albion has such a way with words that she read him up one side and down the other, and he thought she was patting him on the back. But I had to step back because I allowed myself, my listeners could hear that I was triggered, and I'm supposed to be in control. And so that one really stands out to me because it was a lesson learned for me in terms of the way that I need to handle things. Because you know what, I bring up some controversial topics. We don't shy away from that, as you know. And
that's why
so
I'm a big fan of that show. That's what I love about that show about your show, excuse me, because you don't shy away. You're not just giving this. I won't say like the same like cookie cutter things, but you give just great topics that we had the world really the world needs to listen to. You have to have what's the word I'm looking for? It's not gonna ever be easy when it comes to continue to have that knowledge. And you have to have those hard conversations that might upset people. It might, it might just make someone cry, but you have to have those conversations. And I forgot to mention that Another View, the radio show, is a call-in show, so that has to be you don't know who's gonna call in, which has to be I don't know if it's a rush or difficult
sometimes, especially since Trayvon Martin and since George Floyd and all of that. We have people who call in and they'll say, I want to talk about Arrington Gavin Jello shirt on the air, and then when they get on the air, they change the topic. And so I'm constantly listening and being ready to react to, people who have nefarious intent in terms of the show, because I mean, we have our haters, as Lisa and I, we laugh, we just say, we think that, some of the groups that are Black folk
Mhm,
have us
mhm,
on
mhm.
speed dial.
But you
So
know what?
they
That
can
means you
call
do.
in.
That means you do. Look, that means you're doing your job, because when you have
Yeah,
haters, that's not always a bad thing. And again,
exactly.
I told you I was a listener of a personality that I've always admired, and he just passed, I believe, either this year or last year. Joe Madison,
Oh,
and
absolutely.
he had a call, and he
Absolutely.
was very, very, didn't hold back his tongue, and he had
Right.
people that will really call him out of his name, and I'm just like, whoa, how does he? But what I love about
Yeah.
your show, Miss Barbara, the fact that you you respond back with grace. The worst that you could do is kill somebody with kindness, and that's what you do.
Yeah,
You
exactly.
never, just you never let yourself get too out of the way. You just like, we're not gonna have this. Move it on. Next topic. So
Yeah,
I
that's
love that, because again,
thank
it's
you.
all about the representation. It's all about the representation, and
Yeah,
what a positive
because I
message.
recognize too, I mean, people are inviting me into their space for an
Mm-hmm.
hour of their life, and so so it is incumbent upon me to be respectful of them,
Mm-hmm.
and and to me, you can't get respect if you don't give respect. So, um,
Absolutely, absolutely, and I want to move, because I could talk to you for hours about your career, but we have so many things to talk about in a small,
okay,
smallness of
okay,
time. But you've never shied away from really just, and again, it's in your radio show, but just the conversation about race.
no,
You've created a series of town halls
yeah,
entitled "Race." Let's talk about it.
mhm,
And again, with another view, with speaking on issues from from an African American's perspective.
mhm,
Race is something that you never shy away. Now, I want to bring in race, but when it comes to just media, I mentioned black media.
mhm,
Black media is still, in my opinion, trying to get the get that recognition that it deserves. I mean, we have a lot of people of color in media. I mean,
mhm,
but as far as management positions, ownerships, our own channels. I remember BET used to have BET News. It's no longer here. It's like
exactly.
we've had the Black News
Well, and
channel that.
BET is no longer owned by Black folk either.
There we go. There we go. So I mean, it's just we
Bob
have
Johnson
it, and
sold it.
it
So,
goes. Yeah,
right.
we have it, and then it leaves us. The Black News Network was excuse me, the Black News Channel was a channel that was
Yeah.
here for the African American perspective, in a sense, and that lasted maybe 2 years. Once again, it was not owned by the African American. It was owned by a man of color. I'm forgetting his
Mhm.
name, but he's the current owner of the Jacksonville Jaguars. He had a
Right.
majority ownership into that
Mhm.
channel. It
Mhm.
it it flopped, but it since then has been I think owned
Well, it's a
bought out by
couple
Byron
things
Allen.
too.
Mhm.
So for Byron Allen, he's like the man because he is owning stuff, which is fabulous. We have it's a couple things. One, we don't have access to the capital and the ability to really purchase media and
Mhm.
then utilize it properly. Number one, and then number two, unfortunately, we don't support Black media. And
And that's so hard.
so if the advertisers aren't there and the viewers aren't there, then you're not going to have your journalists can't be there because you need money in order to be able to go out and cover the stories and bring you the information that you're looking for. And so people who we tend to shy away from really supporting um, things, and I okay, I give you a perfect example,
Mhm.
Arrington. I do speaking engagements all throughout Hampton Roads. I go
Mhm.
to, I'm always emceeing something or whatever. I go to a predominantly white event, and people come up to me and quote chapter and verse of what they've heard on another view.
Wow.
Oh, you had so and so on the show. Da 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 da. I go to predominantly African American events, and they go 89.5. What's that?
Mm. Mm.
Okay. Now, I understand we listen to music. You and I are different because we
Mhm.
like talk
Mhm.
radio, and
Mhm.
I get that. But 13 years on the radio, and we still have people who have never, they don't even know NPR exists. They don't know what it's about, and that's because we tend to narrow ourselves to, we find what we like and that's it. Where we as a people have got to also learn to expand our horizons. And
Yes,
I
yes.
go to places to different things that I have no clue, what it's about, or I've been invited to Seder dinners, during
Hmm.
the Jewish holidays, or
Hmm.
to
Hmm.
I've sat down with my Muslim friends, and we've talked about the Bible versus the Quran. I try to learn different things, because to me that's the excitement. When you stop learning, you may as well just,
I couldn't
sit in a
agree with
rocking
you.
chair.
I couldn't agree with you more because all of
Yeah,
my friends, I would say, majority of us, we come from different backgrounds, but we don't agree on the same stuff either. And
exactly.
which I enjoy because one of my best friends I consider a brother. He's a white guy from Iowa, and when it comes, let's say, when it comes to politics, we never agree at all. But at the end of the day, we just say, okay, look, we agree on 80% of the stuff. That 20%, we're not gonna ruin that. But
Exactly.
to
Exactly.
to add to what what you were saying, just like you said, uh uh expand our horizon when it comes to wealth of knowledge, because
Yep.
we tend to close up in a bubble. And I've had the same experience because I have a nonprofit that we put on local events, and we're just like, wow, all these people that say they were coming, they don't
Right.
show in any
They don't
way.
show. They don't
They
come
don't
out. They
show, or they
don't
don't
help.
know
That's
about
right.
this and that. And I'm like, oh, but you know about Real Housewives of such and such, or about
Exactly.
and it's sad because a lot of the shows that a lot of shows, or excuse me, black shows on on a national level, it will show the wrong side of us, and that's
Hmm.
what I can't stand, because I don't want to continue to see drama on, or I just
Exactly.
or people
That's
showing
why.
themselves in a wrong manner. I can't stand that, because I'm like,
Mhm.
that is not the narrative that you should think that that's everybody. Like we're not those people.
Absolutely.
That they are
Absolutely.
getting paid to
Absolutely.
act. They don't even act like that in real life.
Hmm. When I was news director, I had reporters that would say, they didn't know it, they wouldn't say it directly to my face, but
Hmm.
just walking by, I could hear people talking and thought, oh, we got to go do that story because it's got black people in it, or and things like that, and but you know what? I am determined that I'm going to do my part
Mm,
to expand, to try to help people to learn more, to understand each other more. Because the fact of the matter is, until we learn how to talk to each other and to understand each other's culture, and why we do the things that we do, we're never going to come together as a people.
mm,
It's encouraging to see young people like you talk about how you've got friends from all different races, and so forth. My generation, I'm a boomer. I'm the younger, I'm the last of the boomers
mhm.
before, but my generation and the generation before me, we were fighting so hard just to be heard. Period. That we were in kind of our Black Power bubble, which is fine.
Mhm,
You
mhm,
know, um, but I it's just been a passion of mine to just let people know, what, we're not a monolith. We don't
mhm,
all think alike. We all have different ideas. We
mhm.
come from different backgrounds, but you're not going to portray me as a welfare mom, and you're not going to portray you as a black man in handcuffs.
Yeah,
You know, I, there's, yes, that is a part of our community. I'm not downplaying that at all, but there's so much more to our community
absolutely,
also, and
absolutely.
it's not fair that the majority gets to paint a picture of us that is not a true picture. And if
Mm.
we don't speak up and say something about it, then the lie continues to perpetuate. So I
Well,
just try to do my little part.
this is a perfect. You're doing an amazing part. You're doing an amazing part, Barbara. And this is a
Thank
great
you.
segue to lead to your company, Sharing Info LLC. So I mentioned earlier, I've heard of which. Well, your company is excuse me, a media communications DEIJ consulting company.
Yeah.
So DEI, I'm familiar with diversity, equity, and inclusion, but then the
Uh-huh.
J, which stands for justice.
Justice.
Please explain your company and the and the mission, and really just let's talk
Okay.
about. Hold on, let me get my little graphic. There we go. I'm still learning. I'm still learning. Yeah, I
You're
do a little
doing
production
great.
on the side.
You are doing great. So when George Floyd happened, I got tons and tons and tons of phone calls. Back up. Sharing info has been around since 2013. Mainly because my tax guy said, you got to do something because you're doing these speaking engagements and it's killing you. So I started this LLC, but I really didn't do anything with it. And then in 2017, when I decided to leave HRO and really get serious about sharing info, and then HRO became my first client. So people think I work for the station, but they're actually my client. And so when George Floyd happened, I got tons of emails and calls from people saying, help. What do we do? What do I say? How do I deal with this? I mean, our country was just hurting. And so that's when I really got into the training for corporations, nonprofits, schools, etc., and helping them to navigate how they're going to implement their own diversity, equity, inclusion, and justice training. And the justice part is really moving beyond diversity, equity, inclusion to making sure that societally we are all we all become one. So it's to take it from your organization to spread it out further. And so I go in and I sit down with management and talk about what their goals are, and how best to implement them. It's been very, very interesting. I've dealt with a couple of private schools in this area where the teachers and the administration and the students were all on board, and the board and their boards of trustees were not. And so that's a problem because if you don't have the whole organization, especially from the top down, on board, it's not going to work because you can teach one part, but if you don't, if your organization from the top is not on board, then your culture is not going to change, and that's what we're trying to do.
I'm a private school kid since from pre-K, and I graduated in private school, and I'm gonna say from 6th grade to 12th. I was the minority, so I know very much like it's extremely important to have someone like you because I had the jokes of, oh, Arrington, you sound white, or stop talking white and stuff. And I, as a middle school kid, I'm still very clueless at, shut up, what are you talking about? And then the older I get, I'm like, oh, if I run into that person, let me tell, like, I mean, like, what is that? What you really mean by that? And teachers don't, don't punish them for saying that too. Right, and I'm just like, wait a minute, no. So it's very needed.
And then you have teachers who are not culturally competent, and so they don't understand, what it means. If someone says something, they may not mean anything in a negative way, but that's the way it's interpreted. I mean, there's so much to this whole race thing that's just incredible. But
have you
I
worked
also
with any? I'm sorry.
Oh no, go ahead.
I was gonna say, have you been approached by any body from from law enforcement? Because I feel as though for right now in the public eye, law enforcement probably is the number one group that's always saying, okay, look, we need to have this because it's been like an ongoing back and forth thing. Have you been approached by them?
Before Larry Boone left Norfolk, we had started to have some conversation about me coming in, and then he left, and so they just kind of died from there.
Gotcha.
But other organizations, like I said, some schools, nonprofits, corporations, and so forth, I've gone in and I always tell, I won't take a client who just wants a one and done. Because DEIJ is not about one and done. So in other words, don't have me come in, spend an hour or a half a day with your group and think that you all of a sudden you're all done with the diversity thing.
I'm an expert now. I'm an expert.
Exactly. No, it doesn't work that way. But I also do beyond that, I also do work with companies on their branding, on helping them to get their message out, helping them learn how to write press releases, things of that sort. And let me put in a plug, but speaking of that, for any of your listeners, Hampton Roads Black Media Professionals has the Byron Burney School of, I know I was going to get it wrong, the correct title, but basically they have a academy that will teach your organization how to write press releases, how to approach media to get coverage. It's free.
Oh, you
And
hear that,
Lisa
y'all?
Conley,
Free. You know, we advocates of
free,
free 99.
FREE, exactly. And Lisa Godling, who is the current president of Hampton Roads Black Media Professionals. Google them. You can find their information in their contact, but they will, do workshops with your groups and so forth. And they have an academy. We're trying to get students that are interested in media that you come in, and when we actually give you projects to do, you have mentors in the organization that are professional journalists that can give you feedback. And it could be, if you're into graphic arts, like you were talking about, graphics or photography or editing or on air writing, all of it.
I love it.
And
Now, are these just now? Do they have to just be students, or is this for anybody?
nope,
Anybody
this
that's
is
interested?
anybody, adults, children, and anybody. So if your church group, if you're trying to figure out how do I get my, Women's Day event, conference that's coming up, how do I get publicity for that? We can teach you how to do that. And so, Hampton Roads Black Media Professionals.
Hold on,
Call
I look. Make
Put it
sure I got some
down.
ink in this pen. Let me make sure I got some ink. Hampton Road. Oh, I got it.
That's right. HRBMP, Hampton Roads Black Media Professionals.
RBM.
And they would love to hear from you all if you have that type of need. They'll do theirs for free. If you need me, we got to talk.
Look, everybody's like, look, Arrington, you went over Barbara's resume. Let me see if I got some. You're gonna have to pay me. All right. Look, I might can afford a couple seconds at best, but no, but you are worth the money. And I just want to put up your website just to make sure I have it correct. sharinginfollc.com. So please, y'all, please check it out, because let me tell you something. It will work for not just if you're, want to grow in media, but also for businesses, corporations. Look, guys, a lot of business owners tune into this podcast, and for those who are wanting to invest in themselves and start a business, have that knowledge and information, in the beginning stages, so you wouldn't have to have those, those issues further on in life. So I truly thank you. And Barbara, I could talk to you forever, and I don't want to hold you up too long, but I really
I'm enjoying this.
Oh, I'm so happy.
I have to tell you, I hate being on this side of the mic. I just want you to know that.
Well, I feel honored. I'm so honored, and please come again. I really would always. I mean, like I said, I can talk for you forever. And yeah, I'm just this is a bucket list. This is a dream come true interview. I just want to let you know that right now. This is really a dream come true interview. So, once again, ladies and gents, the one and only award-winning journalist, Miss Barbara Hamm Lee. Please be sure, if you're in the Hampton Roads area, and really if not, if you're in the Hampton Roads area, tune into her radio show, Another View, every Thursdays at 12 p.m. on 89.5 WHRV, okay, WHRV, and tune in. It's an awesome show. If you're not in the Hampton Roads area, no worries. You can tune in via podcast. So wherever you get your podcast, you can also download the NPR app, because I'm also, I download the app, and you can look it up from there, Another View. It's a great show. And if you want to look at previous episodes when there was a TV show, they're on there. And it's awesome. It's awesome. And if you need any assistance with your business or your brands, again, I'll put that website up one more time. www.sharinginfollc.com. So please be sure to continue to support Black media. Support. If you are an advocate for representation, positive representation, please, you want to continue to learn more about Miss Barbara Hamm Lee. Again,
hey Arrington, I don't know if you can see this real quick. Can I show this? Can you see that?
I can see it.
Okay. Do you see somebody you recognize?
Is it in the middle?
In the middle? Uh-huh.
Yes. Who is that lovely person? Oh my goodness! Wait a minute. Is that Oprah Winfrey?
Yes, it is. I was her producer in Baltimore.
See,
that's
you
me
see,
in the corner. Wait a minute.
Wow. Hold on. Kind of bring it over a little bit and a little closer. There you go. And bring it up a little bit. I see a little bit. There you go. Y'all see it right there. Okay. Wow. Look at that. Okay, so you just gonna throw that on us at the end, right? Wow. Oh my goodness. Look, we going viral, y'all. We are going viral. Look, see, after this episode, now I can afford you. now I can afford you. See, that's how they do. That's that plug right there. She said, let me go and make this viral. So about that video, I know exactly. No, but I truly thank you for that, Barbara. I really do. And I like I said, I would love to have you on again and work it in your schedule to have
That'd
you
be
on.
great.
Please don't be a stranger to the show. I'm gonna text Dr. Eric Laville. Well, he was supposed to be doing a oh my goodness, a town hall this week, but it got canceled. But I'm gonna text him, let him know I spoke with you, and Allison as well. Again, shout out to side note, shout out to my friend Allison Moore. She has a comedy special on Amazon
on
Prime
Netflix,
right now,
and it is really good on Prime. That's right,
Prime, Prime, and it's called Black
yes.
Card, and she's back on your round table. I heard her because she's back in Hampton Roads, so very excited about that too.
As a matter of fact, she'll be on week after next. She'll be on the second Thursday of April. Yeah.
Awesome. And also before you go, Miss Barbara, what can the people expect for another view in 2024? Because it's a big season right now. You have so much things going on. Any topics that you want to kind of
well, actually, what I'd like to do is to encourage your listeners and viewers to send us an email and let us know what you want to hear about, because that's how we get our ideas. Now, in addition to our own research and so forth, Lisa and I are out in the community all the time, kind of listening in. We're like flies on the wall. What are people talking about? What's going on? So if you guys have topics that you're really, really interested in, we're trying to go live from the National African American Museum in DC.
Beautiful museum.
But we're working on the technical side of that. So that's what's holding us up right now. But we are always looking for really innovative, good ideas, things that are happening in the community. So reach out and let us know. So that
how can people email?
They can email me at they can actually email the station. It's at contact@anotherviewradio.org.
Contact@anotherradio.org.
At anotherviewradio.org.
Awesome. Thank you so much. Look, don't go anywhere. I'm gonna end this off, and I just want to chop it up with you just for 2 seconds. But ladies and gents, once again, award-winning journalist, the one and only Ms. Barbara Hamlin. We truly appreciate it, and thank you. Don't be a stranger to the show. Don't be a stranger to the show. Everyone, I hope you enjoyed this amazing conversation. I know I did. Like I said, I could talk for hours with Miss Barbara. I even if she said call me Barbara, like Miss Barbara, can I just call you Miss Barbara? Like it's just I'm so like tickle pink right now. So I hope y'all enjoy. Be sure to tune into new episodes of the Arrington Gavin podcast every Monday, Wednesday, and Friday. Again, 10 a.m. Eastern Standard Time via podcast. So if you prefer to hear my voice and listen to me, then you want to tune in at 10 a.m. New episodes drop on those days. You see scrolling at the bottom, iHeartRadio, Spotify, Apple, Google, Stitcher, wherever you get your podcast from. Odyssey. You can also, there's an app called Hayti, Hayti. It's an app that's it has all Black content creators on podcasts, so you can tune in from that as well. And then if you prefer to watch me and see this beautiful face of mine, if you prefer to watch me, you can on at our YouTube channel, R Smooth Club Media. Okay, R Smooth Club Media on YouTube. Subscribe, hit the like button. I truly appreciate it. Facebook page is R Smooth Club Podcast and R Smooth Club Media on X, formerly known as Twitter. I truly appreciate it. Once again, guys, yeah, I just look, I'm having a blast. But y'all be easy, stay blessed, and I will talk to you all next time. You have a blessed one.